Welcome to Focus on Claims with Ernie Bray, CEO of ACD.
Hey everyone, Ernie Bray here with ACD, and today I got some special guests coming over from the UK. This industry's changing. Let me tell you, first notice of loss, digitization of claims is huge. And these guys are making a game changer out there. They're called RightIndem. Now, when it comes to this first notice of loss, you're going to hear some exciting things that's going on right now. And I'm going to talk to Paul Irvin and Oliver McGuinness of RightIndem. They're making some huge waves in the industry, and I'd like to welcome them aboard. Hey, Paul. Hey, Oliver.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having us.
Hey, glad to have you on here. So, I know we've all talked before, but I want for the audience here, just give me a 30,000 foot view of what you guys do for our audience out there.
Sure. So, we're a SaaS software vendor focusing purely on claims based out of London. We've got clients now in 5 countries, and we're wholly focused on claims. And I guess even more specifically, we focused our business and indeed our strategic growth on solving the age-old challenge of digitizing first notification of loss, and then using our platform to enable the digital claims management process further downstream. So, that's us at a 30,000 foot view, and I'm excited to tell you more.
Wow, that's exciting. And I know, Paul, I got you on here. We were talking about how you're kind of heading up the international business development. How's that? You're talking to people from all over the country all the time?
Yeah, very much so. Delighted to hook up with Ollie again. We had some fun times growing the innovation group business over the years, and that was very much on an international footprint. After far too many years in the industry and joining from school on from one of the big brands, I got a call from Ollie about 6 months ago. Good product, great product in RightIndem, and asking if I fancy to see if we could create an international footprint for the business. So I think in my second week, he scurried me off to Las Vegas at ITC, met more insurance people than I've ever met in my life. And fortunately from there, we've got quite an amount of activity going on, US, Canada, Europe, and indeed extending out now into Asia. So yeah, very exciting for us.
That's awesome. Global reach here. That's really exciting. So let me jump in. So the industry, I know, is so focused on the touchless experience. And, as an organization, how did you build the product and that basically built in all these different parts for the customer, the claim handler, the loss adjusters? What was the thought process behind what you're trying to accomplish?
So I think firstly, our focus has always been on the customer themselves. And, if you look at traditionally what that claims reporting journey has looked like, customers, it's fairly the mold is fairly set and has been for many years. Customers come in either paper-based or through a contact center. You're into this analog journey, which broadly looks the same, irrelevant of almost region. There are that 20-30 minute info gathering call on the extent of loss, the coverage, where we should put you in the supply chain, if there are any fraud indicators on what the customer's telling us. And actually we looked at that and said we first can create a better solution for the customer that doesn't fit in today's digital consumer world. And so what's important, I guess, for us to note is that whilst digital is part of the solution, it's also not for everybody. So we wanted to create our platform that would allow customers to come in and come out as they saw fit. Customers sometimes may want to start a journey digitally and fall out and speak to somebody because claims are emotive. And on the flip side, they may want to start on the phone and then come into the digital platform because, it would be more convenient to report the property loss or the auto loss in their own time after work or whatever that may be. And so for us, that's how the journey started. We started out with some behavioral scientists looking at how best we could create an optimal customer journey. And that for us looks like no native apps. It's web apps embedded in every channel of entry that the insurer uses: website, call center, automated recording IVR lines, that sort of thing. And then we looked at how to create an information submission process that requires minimal free text entry. How do we maximize the use of voice and video? How can we use voice to text? How can we use automated sentiment analysis? How can we use different triggers to almost triage those claims without human intervention, to take, firstly, the burden away from the customer, but also remove some of the analog burden from the handler dealing with these kind of high volume, low value, low complexity losses that actually don't serve anybody well, dealing in an analog way. So that was very much the start of the business, and we created that into a scalable product, white labeled, fully configurable in rules and text and question sets and all that kind of hygiene stuff. And then we looked at building out two other components, and those are the middle part of our platform, which is effectively a rules and validation engine. So taking that FNOL journey a step further to say, how can we build in more complex rule sets, looking back against policy data, etc., in order to take a step further and add further value to the claims handler. And then the final part of the piece of the puzzle, the third component of our platform, which was all around creating an ecosystem that allows us to be the orchestrator for the insurer. I think, as we all know, part of the problem is insurtech and technology businesses around insurtech have huge capabilities, and actually the ability to create touchless claims or straight through process claims. The challenge is not in finding technology that can do it. Part of the big problem is, how can an insurer adopt that technology, integrate those several moving parts without that becoming a huge burden, a huge cost, and something that ends up taking years to fulfill. And so for us, we're an API first business. We effectively want to take that challenge away from our carrier clients or our TPA clients and say, well, look, we will host those solutions for you, and we'll present them to the customer in a single digital transaction. And if you want to add a new supplier, it could be a gadget fulfillment provider, it could be an auto body shop network, then we'll run that integration and we'll host that on your behalf. And all we'll simply do is push that data back out to your core system of record in a single packet at the end of our involvement. And so that's how we've been scaling the business. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I think what's resonating a lot with our TPA broker and insurer clients is that that problem solving out of the box is a big tick. Certainly in COVID, wow, we've seen that as well.
Wow, that's exciting. I mean, from what I'm hearing you say, I'm hearing you say that your technology and everything you're doing is pretty customizable, but basically you're trying to put the right claims into the right hands for the right outcome. It's what I'm hearing, that you're trying to basically get it to the right, take all these touch points away from the adjuster so they can actually do their job. Am I right?
Sure. And yeah, spot on. And so what we'll never say is that, it's that digital only is the only thing that shouldn't be in place in the market. Claims handling and adjusting is a highly skilled area of the market, which actually ends up being devalued because a lot of time and resources spent on non-value adding tasks. And ultimately, what we're aiming for our platform to be over time is what we do now in some ways is we augment the role of the adjuster, and we provide them with better data to make more streamlined decisions.
That's funny. That's why I like to say, I was in a Forbes article recently. I was quoted talking about AI, and I was basically saying something to the effect that, AI is great, but you have to be able to mesh it with humans, and you want to help augment the end person who's working, augment intelligence. You're helping them do their job and perform better. And that's really what I think I hear you saying here. Let me ask you, this COVID thing going on throughout the world, I think in some ways it's fast forwarded the use or the interest in digitization of the process. Have you seen that from your aspect with the interaction with customers? How's that been going?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Go on, Paul. I'll let you take this one.
No, go for it. Go for it. Yeah, Ernie, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, in an industry where digital has absolutely been prime on the agenda of onboarding new business and dealing with customers at the policy level, I think the claim area has lagged behind, and absolutely, the unfortunate position of the pandemic has brought digital squarely to the agenda of many, many sectors of industry, and that's certainly what we're seeing on the agenda of the claims executive. The ability, as we've talked about already, to embrace a medium where, let's face it, customers these days are living in a world of instant gratification. If they can deal with their bank or their shopping online or call an Uber or whatever, well, why on earth can't they deal with their insurance claim transaction in exactly the same way? So COVID has absolutely fast-tracked that particular agenda piece for us. The amount of inquiries, and I know we're not alone, that our business and similar businesses, and Ernie, I know yours is the same, have seen coming through the doors over the past 3 or 4 months, asking for more eloquent solution in their customer engagement, has been colossal. It's absolutely been colossal. So yeah, a very bad thing for the world, but I think a very good thing for the world of insurance claims in actually driving this thing forward now.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see that from our aspect over here in the United States. You see a lot of interest in ways to really digitize the whole process. And, what's your thoughts on the adoption rate that you're seeing from carriers right now in the FNL portion of digitizing that compared to do you see a move now starting to head to more to that compared to the manual processes?
Yeah, I think if anything, let's look at remote working as an example. I think many boards around the world would have looked at that and thought, in an ideal world, we'd like to be, lessen the burden on office space and the amount of time that our people have to be in physical locations. But actually, effecting that change would have been a big risk and a big move by some, I guess. What I think COVID's done is it's forced us into the requirement to make decisions, and people have started to settle on working in a different way. For claims in our industry and how people serve customers, I think that's certainly accelerated the agenda of having to think differently about how customers come in. Ultimately, if I'm a big carrier and I've got a big call center function, am I able to run VPNs with hundreds of FNOL agents on the line? Is that the right way to spend our dollars? I think the reality is that's not. I think there are two parts to it. One, customers have seen COVID and its effect on operations and been a little bit more, well, I say actually a lot more forgiving about delays, hold times, lack of resource. But actually, I think they've made a natural move to look and try and solve problems themselves. Go to insurers' websites or brokers' websites to report losses. For the industry, I think it's actually an opportunity to say, let's not go back to the old world. Let's market the value of digital reporting to customers. Let's make it front and center on our sites. But before we do that, let's make sure that we've got a seamless process that enables the customer to do so.
Another thing I want to touch on is, when it comes to the first notice of FNOL portion and you're dealing with a new client, I think configurability, the ability to adapt to a specific carrier's needs in our part of the business, we see that very important when it comes to the appraisal and inspection process. How do you guys work with carriers when it comes to their unique workflows? What's your thoughts on do you think configurability helps with adoption, or what's your thoughts on how that works with the carrier? How do you go about working with the carrier to create the questions and create their journey?
For sure. Yeah, so typically we run workshops with our business analysts, where effectively we will walk through their current process. We'll look at the processes that we run across the board. We'll make suggestions. We'll build it together, what a streamlined process looks like. What we tend to find with a lot of carriers is that there are questions baked into a journey because that may be a particular touch point that the insurer needs to capture data, and it might be a quantifiable field that needs to be captured for reserving or whatever it may be. It may be something that actually was needed many moons ago but has just stayed in the process. So we look to streamline that journey. We look to leverage a customer first approach in designing that journey, including the rule sets and that kind of thing. And we'll go away and we'll configure that in the platform, and then we'll push it into UAT for them to test. So configurability for us in our world is huge. I think there are a lot of carriers and players that seek competitive advantage in how they manage claims, and as a technology supplier, we have to be alive to that.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say that some of the key data points, or what if I'm a carrier listening now? I mean, what are some key data points, and how do you help, from that start of the journey, identify maybe the severity of a claim, or how you can help them triage to the right method of inspection or the right route of the claim, the route which should be taken? What are some methods of how you do that?
Sure. So typically, I mean, there'll always be question-based triggers that flag certain types of claims and push them into certain pots so they can be looked at more immediately. We've also started to look at using things like sentiment analysis. So one of the ways we like to capture data using voice and video is to curate a journey, to ask the customer to walk around the property or around the vehicle if it's safe to do so, and to follow the on-screen prompts and tell us what happened, how it happened, etc. What we're able to do is to take that voice profile, turn it into text, and also run it through our sentiment engine that gives us triggers on certain types of emotion. Might be anger, there might be upset, there may be particularly elderly customer that needs a faster response because they're particularly upset, which we've certainly seen in some instances. So we're really looking at and interrogating both the structured and unstructured data using A, predefined rules to understand severity, and B, looking at unstructured data using video and our voice to triage those and push them into where they need to be. If we're running integrations with the supply chain and the particular claim meets certain parameters, then we may want to push that into a repair or reinstatement supplier, or indeed a large and complex loss adjuster as an example. So that's how we typically do it.
Wow. That sounds really good. I know the listeners, I've had the opportunity to see how your technology works. So I had the luxury to do that. And I believe it feels very intuitive to me looking at it. But you said you had behavioral scientists. They said behavioral scientists and people looking on how to make it very, I guess I would say, a very personal experience for the customer, and it can adapt to the customer. Is that what you were saying? Because when I saw it, I thought it was very easy to use. So there appeared to be a lot of thought that went behind it.
Yeah. So our design team are great, and it's all about creating something that's intuitive. And a lot of thinking has gone into how we design the screen flow, how we design the buttons, how we word certain questions. Customers don't understand insurance language typically. Why should they? All they really need to know is that they've had a problem and they need to be guided through a journey to solve it and get it resolved as quickly as possible. So, even down to things like photo and video upload, everything in our platform is curated for the customer. So they should only ever see one route to proceed down the journey, not a littered page of functionality where they can kind of get lost in what's required. So it's very much a directed and curated journey for loss submission. But
so once a claim's initiated and once somebody starts the process with your solution, how is it tracked? How can you track the flow of the claim?
Sure. So that all depends on our role. If we're purely talking about our first notification of loss platform, then effectively there are a number of ways that can happen. One is it may be once and done and we're pushing it straight back to the insurer, or we're pushing it straight into an ACD as an example in order for your handlers to pick that up. And in some instances, that's our involvement over. If we're effectively orchestrating what goes beyond FNOL, which happens in a lot of cases, then ultimately we're pulling in the API of third parties to go and get calendar availability, to go and get maps of where the local body shop may be, or how we can replace that Apple Watch as an example. There are many options and examples of how that occurs. And obviously for the customer, what that has to be presented back in is either their preferred method of communication. It could be text, it could be email. Equally, they may choose to call the insurer, in which case we have to present and ensure that the claim file is updated so that the handler can update the customer accordingly.
Now, I know our companies, I guess, are talking right now about finding ways to partner with you guys and fit in our process over here in the U.S. We're exploring those opportunities right now. And I'm seeing this as the idea of partnerships, the ecosystem, and other companies in the insurtech the space, all working together to fit in the right pieces. Are you seeing kind of that over in the UK or even globally, that there's a lot more openness to a lot of insurtechs, like trying to find ways to partner and fit these pieces in that ecosystem?
Oh, hugely. Yeah. I think that is something that most insurtechs or technology suppliers around the insurance sector are all thinking. I mean, we've seen it where we've partnered with particular parties in the supply chain, and we're taking combined solutions to insurers which are solving end-to-end problems. And that's great for them because they don't have to worry about, integrating multiple parties, having to run multiple conversations. The work is done, it's cost effective for the carrier, and it will deliver results out of the box. And I think that's certainly the future of how technology serving the insurance space will really proliferate. It'll be based largely on partnerships and ecosystem.
I agree 100%. That's exactly what I'm seeing too. Well, it's been great having you guys on. And I want to, before we end it here, it's up to you guys. You could have top secret plans going on you may not want to share. But is there anything going on with you guys right now that may be coming up, or something that's really exciting about your platform, or some place you're going to launch new products that you'd like to share with the audience, or things you have going on about the company?
Sure. So I think one thing, we're always happy to share. Yep. No, I think one of the things that we thought a lot about, and we're turning this into an out-of-the-box solution for customers, is, the events like COVID-19 trigger huge responses from the industry, and that I guess was an unprecedented scale of having to shift to entirely remote working. We are in varying degrees and varying examples well equipped to deal with that. I think from our small part in the much bigger industry is really how we can step up and help our clients or potential clients to solve the problem. So one of the things that we've done is we've created effectively a ready hosted solution that can be self-configured by clients and launched almost immediately. And we're offering packages to clients whereby they may not choose to use us on a day-to-day basis because they may have their own strategic program going on, but actually having us as a backup, as a disaster recovery partner, where there's a branded solution always hosted. There's a small base cost, but if you need us, we can switch it on immediately, and we can be there to take huge volumes of losses and filter them into the supply chain without the call centers being overfilled.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's great stuff, guys. Well, hey, it's great having you on. And if you guys could do me a favor, let our listeners know if they're interested, how could they get a hold and get in touch with you guys and make contact?
So our website is the best place, www.rightindem.com, or check us out on LinkedIn. So our RightIndem LinkedIn page, or connect with myself, Oliver McGuinness, and be delighted to chat.
All right. Hey, Paul and Oliver. Hey, it's great to have you on, and thanks so much.
Thanks very much. Take care. Speak soon.
All right. You too.
This has been Focus on Claims with Ernie Bray, President and CEO of ACD.